Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jeremy, and you're listening to the Crew First Culture podcast. Thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate that. Hopefully, I can bring some things to mind, or just some new thoughts that might add a little bit of value to your life. That's kind of always the goal, and we'll see where we can go. So today we're going to talk about gaps in your life, gaps in your self-perception, your leadership, whatever you want to discuss. There is going to be a gap associated with that, and we'll get into what that means and what I'm talking about here pretty quick. But kind of the thought process on this has come from a few different books and a few different podcasts I've listened to recently, and just kind of the combination of all that has really led to some pretty good self-reflection and some pretty good directions to go as far as where growth is needed for me personally. So felt like that this is probably something that maybe some other people might need or want to hear for themselves. So I'd love to share that. Really, the first and main book that I would like to share is something that anytime anybody asks, I've definitely, that's been the top of my list since I've read it, is Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute. It's a great book. I think that everybody needs to read it because it deals with something that we all struggle with, even if we don't either know it or don't become honest enough with ourselves to admit it. And really just the 30-second sum up of that book is basically talks about the self-perceptions that we have for ourselves and the lies and justifications that we give ourselves to maintain those. And by that I mean, we put our needs as higher priority than others. We put our concerns as more of an emergency than others. Everything that we have of us and ourselves, we as humans, just by nature, tend to put that higher up on the priority list, higher up on whatever you want to call it, than everybody else's. And to maintain that, we have to find justification. And a lot of the times that justification is either inflated, or it's just an outright lie, or whatever we can tell ourselves to make it okay to put ourselves above others. And that's, like I said, that's the very quick sum up as quickly as I can of the book. It's great, a very good book. But anyway, kind of the thoughts that tie into what I'm talking about to that book are basically that there is a gap between the importance we put on the things we want, the things we need, and the importance we put on the things that others want and others need. And that gap is an area that we really need to focus on. We need to minimize that gap right away. If not, kind of flip it and cause a gap in the other direction, that we're putting others first and we're concerning ourselves with the needs of others and things like that, especially those, our loved ones, our family, our teammates, crew members, all of those things, all of those people that we are closely tied to, that we care about, that we love. Those people need to be at the higher end of that. And so that's kind of the introduction of where I'm going, is that gap. And there's lots of areas, lots of ways we can use this. Another way, and probably one of the biggest ways that I've really kind of started thinking about it, is, so how big is the gap between what you want people to think about you and what they actually do think about you? So think about that for a second. I'll say it again because I kind of stumbled over there. How big is the gap between what you want people to think about you and how they actually do think about you. So there's a lot to think about there. First off, it's it's what you're thinking about yourself, how you want others to see you, how you want others to feel about you, and what you want them to think about you. And I think it's pretty straight across the board, and I feel pretty confident in saying, we all want people to think highly of us. We all want people to think good things when they think about us. I would hope so. I don't know why anybody would not. But that, for me personally, we or sorry, I'm saying personally, and I say we. For me personally, I this is a big area for me to really look at, because underneath the surface of everything that you see and hear, and everything I do, and all that, is a person that wants to be liked so badly, that wants people to embrace him for so many good things that are there, is a person that truly just wants to be accepted and liked for the person they are. And why I say that a couple times over is, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing. I know that it can be a bad thing. I can allow it to be a bad thing if I'm letting that affect my decisions and my choices. Am I making decisions and choices because of how it will affect what other people think about me, or how other people feel about me? Am I allowing myself to make decisions that might not be the best decisions, or might not be the right thing to do, because that's what I think other people are going to like the best? So obviously, it's easy to see that can be a bad thing. I think it could be a good thing because excuse me, it pushes me to be better, because I want that so bad. I want people to like the content I'm putting out. I want people you know, to really feel the passion and feel how much I care about the things I talk about, to the point of, that's the main reason I'm doing it. I'm not going to just talk about things just to talk about 'em. I want people to really feel that, and so to really connect with, what I'm saying, and all that. I hope so badly that what I say, what I post, the episodes I put out, I hope so badly that they will add some value to people's lives. All of this is exactly what I'm talking about. Good about it is that it drives me to really make sure what I'm putting out is things that I truly feel from my heart, truly are passionate about, truly feel very comfortable talking about. I'm not going to just talk about things that I'm not, really into, or things that I'm not confident in, or whatever. So it is a good thing. But again, I can't allow that need to be liked, the need to be, just seen for who I feel like I truly am. I can't allow that to change who I am. So anyway, hopefully that's not a lot of rambling there. I just kind of, to go back. This is the second time I've recorded this. I recorded this actually yesterday morning before work, and it was short, which is not a problem. I could probably definitely do some shorter episodes, but I started thinking about it right before I released it. I didn't feel like it had a personal touch to it. And that's actually one of the biggest compliments, and most often compliments I've received, is how people enjoy hearing me add personal stories, personal experience, being honest about who I am and what I've done and all that to the podcast. And I just started thinking, I don't, I'm not satisfied with that. I did just kind of on the surface gave the ideas and the thought processes and kind of left it at that, which might be okay. But that's really I want to do more than that. I want to add in what I am, who I am, what I've learned, what I've made mistakes in, and all that, because I feel like that's truly where people are going to gain some value through. And so redoing it and hopefully kind of what I just talked about, it adds that personal kind of insight or personal touch to it. So like I said, the gap kind of theory, whatever you want to call it, the gap idea, you can make it adjustable in so many different ways. I talked about kind of how we want to be perceived and how we are perceived. Well, what about, you know, the next one is as a leader, you know, trying to putting in the perspective of a leader's a leader's perspective of their people, and kind of that looks like, where are my people at compared to where I feel like they should be? So in that gap lies the area that we need to grow in. And kind of what I am thinking towards that first question, when it was just me, that tells me where to grow. I have to grow towards that gap. If I'm talking from a leader's perspective to my people, and there's that gap of where they are and where I feel like they should be or where they can be, that tells me where I need to train or instruct. I need to train and instruct towards that gap. So again, I feel like the simple question of where that gap is, it really shows us the direction we need to go. If it's personally, then it tells us where we need to grow, what we need to learn individually to grow as people, to get better. If we're talking about from a leader's perspective, it tells us where we need to focus our attention on training and instructing our people so that we can grow better as a team, grow better, grow our teammates better individually, but also grow better and stronger as a team. And really, kind of the third perspective is kind of the team's perspective, or the teammates, crew members, whatever you want to call it, the individually their perspective, and that's the gap between where they see themselves and where the leader sees them. So again, a little bit different perspective. This is coming from, a total different person. The first two are me. What do I see? What do I want? And what is really there? Now we're kind of flipping that over and we're taking their perspective of it. What do they feel about themselves? Where do they think they are personally? And where do I feel like they are from the perspective of their leader? And so that right there kind of gives us another gap, gives us an idea of maybe some talking points to really dig into. Maybe there's some issues there that we see because we're away from who they are. We're kind of looking from the outside in. We see some things that they don't see. So just some really good ideas of things that we can focus on to maybe help them overcome some gaps that they don't see. Because just like they're not seeing everything probably, which causes the gap. That first question that we started with, what I want people to think about me, it's obviously not going to be 100% true. There's going to be that gap. So there are obviously things I'm not seeing in myself that are kind of tearing away at the foundation of the things I want out of this. I want this certain package, but there are actually things that I'm doing that are not allowing me to have that package because it's not allowing people to feel and think that way about me, because that's not actually the truth. I've got to be honest with myself and say, if this is truly what I want, then what am I doing for others or with others that is going to kind of develop that in them? What am I doing that's going to promote that feeling in them? What am I doing that's going to grow that with them? So if I'm wanting this certain thing for people to think about me, if I'm wanting to just throw in something out there, if I'm wanting somebody to think that I am a confident leader and everything I do personally, my actions and my words even kind of contradict that, if I'm undecisive, if I kind of go back and forth on my decision making, if I try to make a stand with something and then back off, if I, you know, have crew members that need me to stand up for them and I don't, if I'm doing all these things, nobody will ever see me as a confident leader. It just won't happen. So if I'm doing these things and inside I want that to be what people see about me, there's a disconnect somewhere. There's something happening that is not allowing me to see what I'm doing right now will never foster what I want out of it. So we need to figure out how to kind of clarify that for ourselves, to see what's truly going on that's causing us not to get what we're wanting, that's causing us to have that gap. So I talked about, kind of going back to that first question again, I talked about what we want people to think and the gap between that and what they actually do think. But I'll add in a basically a second gap, and that's that same question: is go to people and ask them. People that you can trust are going to be honest with you, and ask them what they really think about you. Ask them what others really think about you, because people talk. They're not only going to know what they personally think about you, they're going to have a pretty good idea of at least a couple people, what they feel as well. So just think about that for a second. Now you not only have a gap between kind of what you want people to think about you, what people really are thinking about you. Kind of the way I see that is basically I'm just kind of thinking and guessing that answer on my own. But now you actually go out and you get that firsthand information to where you truly have that question. And so I feel like that's a great place to be, because it not only tells you what you want, it basically tells you what kind of goals you're wanting to get. Then it shows you how you think people are perceiving you. If it shows you what you are thinking that others think about you. So yeah, that's not going to be 100% true, but I feel like there still should be a gap. If we're honest with ourselves, we're not going to have people think exactly about us that we want them to think about us. But then we go to that next level and we actually get that firsthand information, and then there's an additional gap. So that tells us that we have ourselves at a place where we want to be. Then we have that next stage down of where we think people are putting us. But then in reality, we go to that third stage and it's going to be lower. Maybe not. Maybe it might be higher. I don't know. But it could very well possibly be lower than even what we think. And that's obviously concerning. Hopefully, as I said that, I kind of made it sound like it's always going to be lower. Hopefully it's not. If you're a great leader, if you're somebody that people respect and love to work for, that probably will be, the opposite. You're probably going to be viewed as better than maybe you're even thinking you are. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I didn't want to make that seem like what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's going to give us some reality into this whole equation. It's going to help us to really figure out where we're at and where we need to go to get where we want to head, or where we want to go to get where we actually want to be. That's a better way to say it. So, kind of wrapping up, and anybody that's listened to a lot of stuff from me, I say this all the time, but I feel like these episodes were, it gets really wordy. I hope that I didn't confuse the whole situation. I hope that I kind of gave some justice to this, because I feel like it's a great tool for us to use. But to wrap it up, just again, when we're asking these questions of ourselves, when we're kind of being introspective and reflecting on who we are and the gaps associated with us personally, that's going to tell us where we need to grow. The areas that we truly need to focus on to get where we want to be, to continue to grow and become better every day. That's going to tell us that. If we're looking at it from a perspective of, being a leader and focusing kind of where our people that we're leading are, that's going to tell us where we need to train and instruct them, which both of these scenarios I think are great tools for us. If we can just take the time to think it through, be honest with ourselves with the answers, it's going to tell us a lot about where we are and where we need to be. So hopefully this kind of gave you some maybe some thoughts that you haven't thought before, or some thoughts that you really needed to hear and to think about yourself, and maybe some good things to sit down with your crews and discuss. So before I start talking in circles, I want to leave it at that, and hope that it kind of gave you a little bit of value. Before I go, I do want to say that if you are enjoying anything that I'm putting out, please like and share and repost it and comment and rate, whatever you want to do, whatever you have time for. Everything and anything is very much appreciated. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Also, one more thing before I go, I've kind of went back and forth and struggled with this decision, but I have placed a donate button, or whatever you want to call it, on the website, on the podcast page of the website. It's crewfirstculture.com. And why I want to say this is because I want to give the reasoning for it, so that people aren't just thinking that I'm just asking for money for nothing. So part of Crew First Culture, what I have tried to do, and this came from an inspiration from Battalion Chief Jacob Johnson. Some of the things that I try to do with, the hats and the shirts and all that I sell, is to buy conference passes, to buy training registrations, and give those to people that either are in need, they can't buy them themselves, or just people that deserve a good break. And I've really enjoyed being able to do that. It's been a really cool thing to be able to do. And also, it costs money to do the podcast. It costs money for the subscriptions to all these different things. And so I don't want to get into a situation where I am taking money away from the family to do this. It will probably be frowned upon. And so I'm trying to avoid that. But anyway, all donations 100% will go to either, the subscriptions that keep the podcast running, or any additional will go 100% to paying for these registrations, conference passes, whatever I can find that people are going to enjoy. So if that's something again that you feel like you would like to do, or feel the need to do, again, it's very, very much appreciated. And I will truly take very good care of that money and put it in a great place. So thank you for your time. Very, very much appreciate every minute that you all spend with me. I'm excited every time I get to do it. And so until next time, like always, stay humble and do work.